Welcome to Fiery Discourse, your podcast and media featuring dragonesses, female dinosaurs, and other similar saurians and scalies. I'm your host, Ludmillanon, and with me are my co-hosts, Angron, Mathmachine and The Shark. Today is our 142nd episode, and we're talking about the 1995 Gargoyles episode, Monsters. So, let's get things started.
I live again! Again! Again. How many times am I alive now? I don't know. Anyways, Math.
I am vengeance. I am the night. I am in the wrong show. What's going on here?
Fair enough.
Perfect.
I can understand the confusion between the two.
Gargoyles was an immensely popular show for Disney, and actually was probably one of their first attempts at doing more mature animation on television. Everyone knows Gargoyles. If you've been alive in the past, 30, 40 years, you probably know what Gargoyles is, and we don't really need to go into the details of it. It is a really great show, and I am so glad that I actually got to watch it for the podcast. It's a lot of fun, and spoilers, this is not the last time we'll be talking about that show either.
Who could have guessed that Disney's spin-off of The Hunchman of Notre Dame was way popular than it is?
If only these Gargoyles were in there with Quasimodo. I want to see them sing Guy Like You.
Yeah. This was pretty much Disney's answer to Batman the Animated Series. I honestly prefer Batman the Animated Series over Gargoyles, but not gonna lie, Gargoyles had me raising an eyebrow being like, go on.
This episode is from Season 2, which actually had a story arc in it about them going around the world, and this is a part of that story arc. The episode begins with the opening, which has badass narration that tells the story behind the Gargoyles and how they were betrayed by humans and turned into stone, but return over 1,000 years later. The narration is done by Goliath, who is voiced by none other than the legend that is Keith David, and we know how he got the voice acting job. He got into a 10-minute fistfight with Roddy Piper.
Oh my gosh.
I had to reference it. Sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
This is a 90s show. So when you said story arc, I want to emphasize this is something very specific to Gargoyles as an early to mid-90s show. This was a 25 episode arc in a 52 episode season. This is unheard of for this era.
Wow.
I mean, to be fair, there were other shows outside of anime that had arcs like these. The closest you could argue was Batman, technically. Something like this coming from Disney was definitely not exactly commonplace as it is nowadays. Anyway, Shark?
Honestly, the fact that it's over 20 minutes episodes long, this whole arc, for the time is amazing because having the characters not staying in the same setting in every episode, changing every now and then, it will also only happen if the entire point of the show was the characters traveling around the world, but this is, wow. They were really going all out here.
You can tell right away just how much work was put into this because this show still looks beautiful. The voice acting is amazing. The characters are all so fleshed out. This feels like their magnum opus. If Disney just stopped doing TV animation after this, hung it up, this would not be a bad place to end it, let's be honest. When the episode begins, we actually get a previously on segment. It shows Goliath saying that Gargoyles and humans must learn to live together again, or things will never be the same. Angela, a female gargoyle, wants to go with him, and we then cut to Goliath and Elijah, their human companion, as she says that Angela looks similar to Demona, the main villain of the show, as Goliath says that daughters and sons all belong to the same clan, and that is the way of the Gargoyles, which, again, such good backstory. Like a children's cartoon in the mid-90s. This has better plot lines than a lot of movies at the time, you know? It has better backstory and such intricately written. Like every single character had every bit of motivation to it. It is so well made because of that. When the episode itself truly begins, we see the group rowing in a small boat, wondering if they managed to reach Manhattan. Obviously they didn't, because if they did, Jason Voorhees would be hanging onto the boat because he's got to go and punch the guy's head off on the building.
Nice.
Yeah, that would definitely be a different show if he was included.
Eliza jokes that it's too quiet and the water is too clean for it to be Manhattan. They then see a strange object coming towards them as Bronx, who is a dog-like gargoyle, barks and growls at the incoming object, but Angela manages to calm him down. The object descends beneath the boat as it looks like a plesiosaur but appears to be made out of metal. Elijah says that she doesn't see anything, as Angela says that it passed beneath there and it was huge. Bronx snarls as Elijah asks what they should do. Goliath says that they're going to go ashore as they row there. Oh, go ahead, Angron.
Honestly, with nowadays, I would not be surprised that if that was like a future Paradox Lapras.
Eh.
That definitely would also be an interesting crossover. We cut to them ashore as Goliath says that whatever Angela saw has moved on and they should do the same. Angela says they should go to Avalon and then try to return to Manhattan. Eliza, meanwhile, notices some lights in the distance and decides to go there in order to see if there's a phone that she can call to New York. When she gets there, we see that she's at Loch Ness, complete with signs and tourist traps. A man running a booth says that Nessie enjoys a late night swim and tries to go on a tour, complete with a free camera rental. And I will say this, I don't like this Ballad of Nessie sequel short. It's a little bit too dark for my liking. And a bit of a cute gag. Elisa says that she's not the adventuring type and walks off. We cut to her calling Matt on the phone, only for her to get his answering machine, and it turns out that the answering machine is full and can take no more messages, as she tells him to tell her loved ones that she's away and will be home soon.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a bittersweet thing. She's at Civilization and she's able to make a phone call to New York, but the one time she does, Matt just has to have his answering machine all filled up. God damn it, man. God damn it.
We then cut to the boat sailing off again as Angela says how Princess Catherine told them about the Loch Ness Monster, and she wants to stay for a while. Goliath, meanwhile, says that they must get home, as Eliza says that she knows what's going on. Angela asks what she means, as the human points out the monster tour boat, saying that for some, monsters are a big business, and yeah, they are. Look at Toho, look at Dai.
Yeah, look at Gorgo.
Yep, and them too. Yep, giant monsters are indeed a big business, pun intended. As the tour guide from earlier talks about how Loch Ness is so wide and so deep, the metal plesiosaur approaches near the tour boat. Some of the tourists say how they see the monster. Eliza says that the monster is most likely a submarine in disguise and is used to give the customers a thrill. As she says this, the metal plesiosaur attacks the boat, which causes it to capsize, so the tour guide notes that they're going to have to head back early. The humans tells the gargoyles that it's a show like they find in a theme park, haha, before their boat is rammed by the plesiosaur, causing them to fall overboard. And this is also a weird remake of Death Ship, I'll tell you that much.
Also, at this point, lady, I doubt if there's a show that is trying to make profit out of Nessie, part of said show will include destroying a very prizeful ship with people in it that could result in many lawsuits.
And also, it's like, you don't believe Loch Ness monsters are real, and yet you're talking to gargoyles. At what point do you have to stop and realize, oh, anything's possible in the world now?
Yep.
She's like Agent Scully all over again. Oh, go ahead, Angron.
Yeah, it's also like the Moss Man from Amphibia. Seriously, giant basilisks and ancient olms and shit, and yet you can't even suspend your disbelief for something as plausible as the Moss Man, which has been recorded, seen multiple times.
What happens is after the group all falls overboard, they emerge except for Angela as Goliath calls out to her. The robotic dinosaur then raises its head up, and I will say this metal Godzilla look is definitely not a good one for it. The metal dinosaur then analyzes the water. Seeing a real plesiosaur, it dives back down and pursues it. And this is our first real look at this show's version of what the Loch Ness monsters are going to look like. Now, we're going to talk about the main one when we get to it in a little bit, but for now, it's really interesting just to see how realistic they did it. This is probably the most realistic take on the Loch Ness monster that we've seen yet, and we'll talk more about them in just a little bit. We then cut to Goliath telling Bronx to stay with Elisa as he dives into the ocean, being knocked away by the plesiosaur before seeing Angela being kidnapped by the metal dinosaur. Goliath tells Bronx to find Angela as he and Elijah leap in. We then cut to the submarine heading to a secret base, and obviously, judging from what happened last week, they're going to have a secret naval battle with Team Rocket.
Nice.
The submarine emerges, and two troops come out, as a voice over a loudspeaker tells him that he is very disappointed. And here is one of the reasons why I was really excited to talk about this episode, and I didn't know this going in, so this was a huge surprise to me. The voice belongs to evil scientist Severus, voiced by none other than Tim Curry. So
Oh,
strap
boy.
in, folks, because we have one of the greatest actors who ever lived on this show. And man, every time he speaks is a delight. I can't guarantee that we're not going to do impressions of him, and I can't guarantee that they're not going to be really bad, but that's the way it is. That's the way it is. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
This episode just went from E for everyone to E for explicitly Curry. It's going to get very dirty very fast.
Yep.
And yeah,
Well, we know Nigel Thornberry is getting desperate to really cover the Loch Ness monster now.
Lord Nelson's trousers, it's a Nessie.
Yeah.
Yep. Also, after he sings Toxic Love, who wants to bet that by the end, when he's surrendering to the gargoyles, he'll just be like, I love you.
Severus then tells them that without them capturing, and he actually says this, Big Daddy, their current
Daddy.
guest is not long for this world. Bruno, one of the troops, tells them about the monster attacking the tourist boat, only for Severus to threaten to send him back to Xanatos. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Okay, you have Tim Curry say the words Big Daddy. You were trying here.
We're really trying.
Well, they had good taste. They had excellent taste in this. Bruno says that there was an interference, as Severus asks what kind of interference. When Bruno says it was the gargoyles, Severus instantly becomes interested about what was going on. He asks if they got a good look at the gargoyles, as Bruno says that instead they caught one in the net. Now, this is a real missed opportunity, because they should have had the jelly spots just pop up behind them. Meep, meep, one in the net, meep, meep, meep. They then take her out on a stretcher as Severus reveals himself, knowing that she is an adolescent female and rubs her hair. And yeah, this is the creepiest Tim Curry has been since Scary Movie 2. Oh, go ahead, Shark.
Also, nice of him that unlike another character, he's aware that, oh, if I'm hunting Nessie, then gargoyles are completely thing that should exist as well.
Oh my goodness.
Go ahead, Matt.
So the reason that he was so upset when he heard that the gargoyles were here is because he's normally in New York with Xanatos. So he's over there because he is going to the one place that has not been corrupted by gargoyle influence. Scotland.
Nice. Yeah.
I was hoping someone would make that joke. I was not expecting the Scotland part. That is great.
Well, it may not have Xanathos and it may not have gargoyles, but beware of Kevin McAllister's. That will be his downfall.
Severus then tells them to do the standard procedure by taking some DNA samples and putting her in the grotto. Bruno is shocked to hear that she is going to the grotto. We then cut to Goliath emerging again, noting that she did not drown there and is still alive. He then notes that if they find that strange submarine, they find Angela. Lisa says that since the submarine is so large, it has to dock for supplies, with Goliath saying that if they find the submarine, they find Angela. Then cut to Angela awaking in the grotto, only for Nessie to appear, raising her head and roaring. And here we go, we're finally going to talk about Nessie from this episode, because this is the most realistic take on the Loch Ness Monster, not from a live-action movie, that I think we've seen on the podcast so far, because she is really just like a realistic version of a plesiosaur, a beige color palette and yellow eyes. I think that is Frank Welker doing the Nessie noises, because guy did every single animal voice under the sun back in the day. I'd be shocked if it wasn't him doing it. And we also know who designed her, because it probably was Ralphie from A Christmas Story, because she has yellow eyes. So help me God, yellow eyes.
Nice. On that note, though, I don't think they really used Frank Welker for the Nessie's voice. They probably did, and I could be wrong, but it honestly sounded a bit too stock noise for me personally.
I don't know, it could be him just because he did so many animal voices and he does them so realistically. I mean, look, he did Ludmilla's roars as a dragon in Bartok, and he did Dragon's noises in Shrek, and both of those are pretty realistic, so it would not surprise me.
Yeah, you never know.
So first, Frank Welker was already Bronx, the gargoyle's dog, in this. So if they didn't have him do Nessie as well, I'd be shocked since he was already there. Second, one thing I like, one really nice detail in her design, she is fucking huge. Angela is about a 6 foot like 5'5", 6 foot, somewhere in that ballpark size gargoyle. Nessie's head alone is as tall as Angela is. This is a full-size plesiosaur Loch Ness monster. It is gigantic.
Exactly. They really did a great job with Nessie in particular because they make her feel imposing, which makes what you find out about her all the sweeter. What happens is Angela introduces herself to Nessie and says that she might be nervous because she's never been that close to a Loch Ness monster, then says that Nessie has never been that close to a gargoyle, so they're even. Nessie approaches her and nuzzles against her as she rubs Nessie's nose, saying that makes us even again. I do like how we get this really sweet scene of Nessie and Angela bonding. They're becoming friends. We immediately cut to Severus watching this on a screen saying that if it gets any more saccharine, I'll stick a finger down my throat.
Wow. Yeah, someone gag him already.
We then get narration from him saying that Nessie's condition was previously considered critical, but her vital signs are getting stronger and she is eating again thanks to Angela. Severus then says that the young gargoyle fascinates him, and if she belongs to a new clan, her DNA profile will be very illuminating. We then cut to Goliath, Bronk, and Elisa all waiting by the shore, as she says that she will come to them as soon as it becomes night. Goliath says that she has to do it as soon as the sun sets because time is of the essence. She says that she won't as the sun rises, turning them all into stone. Obviously what happened though, it wasn't the sun, it was Gandalf the Grey. Time has made fools of you all!
Nice.
One.
Then cut to Elisa during the day talking to a villager before one of Xanatos' henchmen bumps into her holding groceries, causing her to notice them as she hides behind a building. She notes that they're getting supplies and smirks before running off. We then cut to the truck driving through the mountains as she pops up from her hiding spot and smirks. And this part I really do like. This is so clever because you think what's going to happen, she's going to track into the base, she's going to do something stupid to get caught, and then she's going to be held hostage. No. What happens is the truck takes a sharp turn, she's thrown out of the truck, and basically she looks up and huffs in annoyance. And that is so clever. I really do like that they did that. They gave her more agency in a way. Such a clever little bit of writing there. Go, Shark.
All she needed to do is find out where the bad guys are so he can bring Goliath here when night comes, and well, she succeeded in that. Also, something I kind of find funny is how the henchmen go shopping, not to the town. And while they're not in some sort of really noticeable uniform, well, if you're doing something really evil and want to go incognito, you should wear casual clothing when going outside.
Indeed. Elisa, the anti-April of this series.
Yep.
Except she's way more badass than April, because we'll get to that in a little bit. We then come back to the grotto where Nessie is sleeping and Angela has been turned into stone. Severus and his minions then show up as Nessie all roars at them. Severus then demands them to stifle that irritating noise as they shoot her with tranquilizer guns, knocking her out. They then put chains on Angela as he says, "Not a heartbeat to spare." The sun goes down as Angela is then brought back to life, noticing the chains and growling. Severus mocks her reaction, then introduces himself to her. Angela then looks over Nessie worried, as Severus says not to worry about her, as she'll be knocked out for only a few moments, then says that he wants her to explain something to him. We then cut to the surface briefly, where Bronx is barking at something in the water, and this felt a little weird, like they needed a cutaway just for the sake of a cutaway, and it doesn't really add anything. I guess it's supposed to see that Bronx is noticing something, but I don't know, it felt really superfluous.
I guess it's one of those things where they need some sort of cut so things wouldn't look awkward, like the character just staring for a long time. It's kind of like in the Pickles episode of SpongeBob where they have Bubble Bass throw Squidward away. They did that because they thought that Squidward is standing there while he and Mr. Krabs talk would look awkward, but just having Squidward walk away will also be awkward, so just have Bubble Bass pick him up and throw him away, I guess.
Cut back to Severus where he says something, probably the creepiest line of the episode, because he says, and this is a direct quote, "Thank heaven for little girls and DNA markers," as Angela asks what he means. And here we get the big twist of the episode, folks, because Severus then mocks her and says that the tests are conclusive. Not only is she part of Goliath's clan, he is her father.
Okay, I don't mean to dampen this mood, especially since it's quite a big shock to Angela of all people, but this was kind of obvious from the get-go, because, like, the moment we see her and, like, the first part of this entire arc, we pretty much get the sense that she and Goliath share more than just look. Yeah, it was something I figured out from the get-go, but to anyone else who ultimately didn't, more power to you.
You mean the gargoyle that looks like she is a perfect copy of What If You Mix Demona with Gargoyle? Is the child of Demona and Goliath? Is it the child of Demona and Goliath? No, really, what a shock. I never would have expected this.
All we needed was Buzz Lightyear screaming, "No!"
Yeah.
Of course, Buzz Lightyear didn't exist when this came out, but regardless. Angela is shocked by this as Severus says that it does not matter as his henchman puts a device on Nessie's neck. Angela asks what they are doing to her as Severus says that it is a sonar tag and once she encounters Big Daddy, and again, hearing Tim Curry say that name, I want a 10-hour video of him just saying that over and over again. I think you could bottle it and cure depression. He basically says that once Nessie encounters Big Daddy, they're going to capture both of the monsters and use them as a creature farm. He says that with the amount of genetic material he'll get, he's going to make an immense amount of monsters that'll surprise even him. Angela calls him the only monster there, as Severus taunts her for having her father's short temper. An alarm goes off as he says, "Oh, speak of the devil." And yeah, I'm going to say this outright. I really did not grow up with Gargoyles. I have never seen the show for this time period. So I will say this. For me, Tim Curry is the highlight of the episode. The fact that he is in it as the evil scientist character, you could not get a perfect cast than this guy in this episode. Because anytime he appears in anything is great, but just the way he says these lines, and we're going to get to one of his best lines in a little while, and when we do, it will just show how good of an actor Tim Curry is, that he can make some of the material work. Not that it's bad material, but man, he is just so great in it. Then cut to Eliza, Goliath, and Bronx being taken down an elevator as she wonders who pressed it. Goliath says it's someone who knows they're there, and Severus, over the speaker, taunts Goliath for his brilliant deduction, saying that, "Oh, gargoyle grey matter is as sharp as ever." Goliath screams down Severus's name as they are launched down the shaft, much like the robot devils in Futurama. I wonder if that was an intentional reference. As Severus retorts, "That's Dr. Severus to you." They then wake up in the castle as Severus taunts them some more by saying that they say a man's home is his castle, and what fun would a castle be without a dungeon? And I will say this, you have a lot of dragonesses that would definitely agree with that. Narissa would agree, Ludmilla would agree, Maleficent would definitely agree, so good on you, Severus, you got that right. Goliath threatens Severus that if anything happens to Angela, as Severus mentions that it's too late for fatherly concerns. Apologies for my terrible Tim Curry impression. Trying my hardest. No one can do it but Tim, let's do it that way.
Exactly.
He begins saying that Angela is going to go with them as she runs up to the microphone and yells at Goliath not to listen to Severus. She's then pulled away as Goliath runs up to the speaker and smashes it, with Severus being pleased by this. We then cut to Angela being led into the submarine as Severus gives a henchman a gun, saying to use it if Goliath tries any. We then cut to the prison where Eliza removes a few bricks as Goliath smirks. Obviously, their other prisoner helped them out, Jafar. "You've heard of the golden rule, haven't you, boy? He who has the gold makes the rules." We then cut to the lock as Nessie is freed and the submarine follows, with Severus warning the others that they can't get too close to it. Bronx digs through the cell as we cut back to Nessie swimming, followed by the submarine. Severus says it won't take long as we then get probably what is simultaneously the dumbest and yet the best line of the episode, because he says, "I'm sure Big Daddy misses his little Nessie Wessie," and props to Tim Curry for not only saying that line with a straight face, he makes it sound good. Like the way I said it, It's not a fraction of the amount of slime, sleaze that he puts in his voice there. That just shows what a great voice actor. Go ahead, Angron.
Yeah, Disney was cooking with this guy back in the day, even when they didn't exactly use him all that much. Like, this and Mighty Ducks are two very prominent examples of Tim Curry being used the best during the 90s. Sure, we had Peter Pan and the Pirates, but this line right here, honestly, won't be able to be topped anytime. Anyways, Math.
I will guarantee you some woman somewhere has asked Tim Curry to say that to her as a pickup line.
It probably worked. Knowing Tim Curry, it definitely worked. But, go ahead, Shark.
Honestly, there's probably a woman who also asked him to do this with his hands.
I knew someone was going to say that. I didn't think it'd be that point. Oh, wow. But yeah, what happens is Goliath then breaks through the prison walls and holds Eliza before the guard holds them at gunpoint, asking where the beast is. Bronx then tackles him from the side, causing his laser gun to go off and hit a pillar, which causes water to flood the room. And it's at that point I was like, oh, right, it's the 90s. They can't really show bullets yet. Although they did have an episode where Elisa gets shot by one of the characters. And I bring this up because the character that accidentally does the shooting is voiced by Bill Fagerbakke doing his Patrick voice. So you have him screaming, "A gun? A weapon of violence?" And the way he screams it is exactly the way how he screams, "I defy you, heart man."
Nice.
I get what they were going for, but man, I tried watching that episode. All I could hear was Patrick Star, and it made it so much harder for me to take it seriously. Which, granted, I feel really bad about it because it's a serious episode. It's a good episode, but you have Patrick Star screaming about how like violence against violence and that, and again, it just sounds so out of place.
Yeah, I assume that the reason that episode kinda gets away with that is because it's supposed to be a special episode about the gun safety.
That's how a lot of shows got away with stuff back in the day. It's, oh, okay, we could finally show weapons used on screen, but we show how it's bad? Sure, we could do that. Goliath then interrogates the henchman as water floods the room, asking him how do they get out of there as he tells them about the mini submarine. The group then all make it to the submarine as it makes its way out of the base. We cut to Nessie returning to her mate as they swim around and go off screen, and a really sweet and nice scene, which is then immediately followed up by Severus saying two words that, let's say this way, for the purposes of our podcast, hearing Tim Curry say this is probably one of the highlights. He says the words, "monster love." Hearing Tim Curry say that is amazing. I mean, I will say this, monster love is probably better than toxic love in any case.
Definitely.
Go ahead, Matt.
I was actually going to reference that because he says it the exact same way his villain said toxic love in the Fern Gully movie.
Oof.
Yeah, let's just say, I think, Tim definitely knew what he was doing there. He then wonders how they are going to catch the monsters as he then walks up to Angela in chains and holds her head while smirking. We then cut to the submarine while Angela is being dangled outside of it tied up. We cut to the mini submarine where, again, Elisa says that she cannot believe that the Loch Ness Monster is real, despite the fact that gargoyles are your friends. It's like, you already did that once in this episode, you're doing it again. It's like, she really is a cross between April O'Neil and Agent Scully. She then demands that the henchmen zoom in as he does so, saying that there's nothing they could do to stop it. Goliath sees Angela being carried off as he then cuts to the submarine, continuing to make its way across the lock as the pair of Nessies follow Angela. Goliath then climbs in the torpedo tube as Severus says it will only be 35 seconds before they can tase the monsters. The submarine is then hit by the mini-sub, causing the hull to be damaged and water to leak in. Goliath is then launched from the torpedo tube, obviously the work of Torpedo Ted, as we all know, he has Mickey Mouse gloves, so he must be a Disney character. As he puts a breathing mask on Angela. Oh, go ahead, Angron.
I want to know what kind of materials they use for the mini sub make it somehow stronger than the actual larger sub. Something like that, being able to scrape the larger sub and not get a scratch or like a hole in it, is pretty bizarre, even for this show.
Goliath then breaks the chains as they swim away. Angela then frees Nessie as Severus releases the tasers, Despite the fact they're still sinking, your submarine is taking on water, the hull's been breached, and you still want to go and catch these creatures. It's like, what do you think is going to happen?
Indeed.
Angela then manages to cut the tether and freeze Big Daddy after he briefly gets shocked by the taser. The submarine continues to be filled with water as Goliath and Angela swim their way back into the mini-sub. The submarine continues to sink as Severus says that they can make it to the shore, only for Nessie to bite into the submarine, causing it to sink. Severus hits his head in the console several times and is knocked out, as all the henchmen ask what's going to happen as the submarine sinks. And one thing I want to point out about this show, we never see the submarine or the crew members again. They're dead. They killed all these people on this show. Like, it's not like even in the Pokemon episode where we see them all floating on debris and saying like, oh, Dr. Namba, are you okay? No, this episode ends with these guys all having a horrific death scene. And again, for the 90s, for Disney, this really pushed the envelope, and I'm glad it did,
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry, they're fine. You see, we all float down here.
Nice.
Don't worry, they made the Flying Dutchman and now are part of his crew.
Part of the crew, part of the ship. Part of the crew, part of the ship.
Well, as long as they don't steal his dining sock, they should be okay.
This and the Pokemon episode we saw might as well be like comparing Resident Evil to Mega Man. Generally the same stuff connecting them more or less. Mega Man was a lot more lenient compared to the Resident Evil that is this show.
We then cut to Nessie and Big Daddy swimming in the porthole, as well as with several smaller Nessies, as Nessie herself peers into the porthole to look at Angela, then they all swim away again. We then cut to them all on shore, as the henchman says that they haven't seen the last of Severus. And one thing I do want to point out, he does come back later in the show, and I haven't seen really most of it, so I can't say. I'll throw this to Matt because he's our Gargoyles expert here. Do they explain how Severus survived?
The line at the end of this episode, he has 9 lives, is basically the justification they use to bring him back. Because a lot of villains in this can sometimes appear dead and then just show up again because they are resilient as fuck.
Exactly.
I see. Because I was wondering if they gave him a line saying something like, oh, I had to swim to shore, or oh, I had to hold my breath and hang on to the debris until I breached, or something like that. Eliza says that is the last they're going to see of the metal machines, saying that some monsters should remain hidden. The episode ends with Angela telling Goliath that you should have seen how lost Nessie was without Big Daddy. I was glad when their family got back together, as Goliath says, me too, standing with his daughter as they look towards the moon. And obviously, we didn't get the post-credit scene that we deserved, where Nessie and her family throw a big jazz number.
With a spy frog.
That too. This Nessie took down a submarine, just like that version of Nessie did. So Gargoyles would last for another less well-received season, and apparently it was so poorly received that Greg Weisman declared it non-canon. Aside from like the first episode that he wrote, the rest of season 3 of Gargoyles, he very much said, yeah, it's not canon. It's in its own separate universe. It's not officially part of the canon.
Yeesh, talk about petty.
Not petty. Apparently what it was, it made a lot of changes because they fired all the story writers and they got new ones. And whenever shows do that, it's a bad sign.
Okay, hot take, if that really is true, I liked the 3rd season. Yeah, it wasn't as whimsical or ultimately as expansive as it was in the first 2 seasons, but I don't know, cutting it from the overall lore in general kind of feels like a disservice, especially given some of the episodes in it, like the one with the actual clone Goliath, not Angela, who is his spawn, being deformed and slowly disappearing, to a return of a character from an episode called The New Olympians coming to track a shapeshifter, which there's a lot of good episodes in it. Granted, not as much as the first 2, but you know what I mean.
I think what it was too is because the show had kind of a tonal shift.
Yep.
And apparently Gargoyles, despite this, was still extremely popular. A lot of people liked it. One person who didn't like it, and I want to bring this up because I found that out in the notes and I was so bummed, Bruce Timm hated Gargoyles. He called it cliche Celtic fantasy crap, and it's like, dude, you made Batman the animated series. Why do you have to fight each other? It's like, what? Can't we all just get along?
Bruh.
Yeah, I wonder why Bruce Timm didn't like the show that was closest in tone and style to his from that era. He thinks he might be having a case of the green eye.
Yeah, same.
If we lived in a different world, there would have absolutely been like a Batman and Gargoyles crossover. I would have paid to see that.
Same. Gargoyles is still very popular. It still has a big fan base. One thing also I found out that's really cool is that there's a Gargoyles fan site out there. Greg Weisman still interacts with the fans 30 years on, and he's still answering updates in that in mailbags. That is so cool.
Amazing.
The show continued in comics and the like, which is really interesting.
Nice.
Apparently, there has been attempts at doing film versions going on and off, but sadly, none of them have really gone anywhere, which really is a shame because, again, I can see this adapting to film really easily. One thing, they do have to get Keith David back as Goliath. How I would actually do it if I was to make a Gargoyles movie, I'd use the exact same technique they did for the Hellboy movies, Del Toro ones. I feel like that's the perfect way to do the Gargoyles.
Absolutely.
Trying to make them CGI, trying to make them hip and that would just fail miserably. You have to do them as real fantasy type story. And according to Weisman, he's still protective of it. All these years later, he still wants to make another season of it. He's always grateful for the fans that, and to this day, he still wants to continue it. That's why he's done like comics. He's always wanted to continue it. And honestly, God bless him for that.
Yeah, if Batman Beyond can't get the live action movie it deserves, then next best thing will probably be Gargoyles. I mean, granted, I still prefer Batman over Gargoyles. Both are pretty dark, both are pretty serious, both are pretty awesome for it. But yeah, as much as Gargoyles definitely broke ground and was easily the best that Disney Afternoon had to offer, I wouldn't necessarily agree. 100% anyways. Anyways, Math.
Unfortunately, the only thing that we have that's official, quote unquote, for anything new with Gargoyles is 2 years ago now, they announced that they were doing a live action reboot. And it's going to be by the people and studio that make the Conjuring movies, of all things.
I mean, you could do worse, I suppose, but The Conjuring? That's a pretty bizarre choice, even for Gargoyles.
Does Disney own The Conjuring? I didn't think they did.
No, they don't. They're just working with that studio.
Bizarre, absolutely bizarre. Apparently, Gargoyles, the last thing they've appeared in are those Chibi-verse shorts. Basically, it's Disney saying, let's take every single anime property we've ever done and make them in anime Chibi forms and just have them do wacky things. It's like them trying to do Jellystone, but reverse engineer it. And yeah, it's weird. It's really weird. It is the first time we've seen Brandy and Mr. Whiskers in like 20 years, so that's cool. But aside from that, yeah, they're not the best. That is actually going to lead to the question of the week, which is, what is your favorite Disney afternoon show? And I want to stress Disney afternoon, not Disney Channel, because we'll get to that one later on in the podcast lifespan. My choice is probably going to be one that it took a lot of thought to what my favorite one would be, because again, I grew up after the whole Disney afternoon. I remember watching them on like Toon Disney and like a Disney Channel on reruns and that because they aired those constantly pretty much in every territory. But honestly, for my all-time favorite of the ones that I saw, I might have to pick DuckTales.
I can see why.
It was the one that really put them on the map. It wasn't the first. Gummy Bears was the first. Well, Wuzzles was the first, and we'll talk about that maybe sometime in the future. But regardless, I think DuckTales is one that really is such a well-made show. How it took like the world-famous Uncle Scrooge comics, and are they as good as the Uncle Scrooge comics? No. But, man, it is just such a fun show in its own right. You had Alan Young as Scrooge McDuck, probably the best voice actor for Scrooge McDuck. He is the only voice of the character, at least for me. I tried watching like new DuckTales and that, and I know they couldn't get him to do it because he sadly had passed on before he could record anything, and he was probably too old anyway. But I can't hear anybody but him as Scrooge. He does such a good job. The plot lines are great. You have Magica, voiced by June Foray, who does such a fantastic job. It really feels like these classic, iconic characters who previously were just shown in comic books finally came to life for the first time. And again, the fact is that DuckTales as a whole, I'm going to say a hot take here. I like it better than the new version. The new version is not bad. I guarantee you the new version has a lot of good with it. I like what they did with Della. I like what they did with some of it. I don't know. It feels forced in a way, you know?
In some ways, I can see why, but Yeah, it definitely holds up in its own regard.
Yeah, but as a whole, like I say, it's such a well-written show too. Really great characters in that, and the DuckTales movie wasn't too terrible either. Our Treasure of the Lost Lamb. I think that too was a casualty of Home Alone, which makes two Disney movies to get crushed by it. That and Rescuers Down Under. That is a show that really is just a lot of fun, really great writing, and of course, it has the funniest moment in probably Disney afternoon history. I'm not gonna do an imitation because I probably would break my microphone. I'm just gonna say it. A sea monster ate my ice cream.
Nice.
Yeah, because that's a great moment. If you haven't seen it, look it up. It is really, really great. And yeah, that's going to be my main pick. I don't know if it counts in the purpose of it, but my secondary pick would probably be Aladdin the series, which, let's face it, is the best Disney movie spin-off show ever. Because they got pretty much the entire cast back, except for Dan Castellaneta as the genie, who did a pretty decent job. They expanded the universe in a way where it feels natural. It doesn't feel forced like some other TV spin-offs were. It just feels like a natural extension of the movie. Like, of course there'd be all these bad guys. The animation for the time is really good. You have all the great characters. Gilbert is hysterical as always. Every single line out of Iago's mouth never fails to make me laugh. And that's another show we're going to be talking about in the podcast sometime in the future, so look for that. And yeah, those are going to be my two choices. It's going to be DuckTales 87 and Aladdin the series. So, Angron, what would your picks be?
I'm going to go 2 on this one. One pick needs no introduction. The Wuzzles. Like, to be perfectly honest, we wouldn't have Disney Channel, and we most certainly wouldn't have Disney Afternoon. This pretty much started both of those. So, by that thing, I pretty much count it as a Disney Afternoon show, since it got the ball rolling, even though I don't believe it was actually shown on Disney Afternoon. It probably was. I could be wrong. But yeah, I'm going to go with that. But for my actual favorite Mighty Ducks show, I just spoiled it. Well, it's Mighty Ducks. Yep, Mighty Ducks is my favorite Disney afternoon show. Like, no diss to Gargoyles, it's pretty great. No diss to DuckTales. I did grow up watching a few episodes. I repeat, a few. And the movie, which I'm more familiar with. Can't forget Quack Pack, because we definitely covered an episode on that already. And spoilers, that won't be the last one either. As for Mighty Ducks, yeah, I actually enjoy the crap out of it. It's fun. It was advertised in VHSs that have Toy Story and a bunch of others on it. I was pretty in it back in the day, and I finally got a chance to see it on Disney Plus, and I was not disappointed. Is it the best? Not exactly. Is it perfect? Not really, no. But is it packed with charm and one of those things that I absolutely do not regret seeing? Yes, like seriously, the characters in there are pretty fun, if not a little bit one note. This one buff guy who pretty much is Zen, but also the brutalist. We got a sword guy who makes me think of Joey Wheeler for some reason. Can't imagine why. We have easily best girl, Tanya Vanderflock, who is equal part a goober and also goddamn adorable. She's also the team mechanic, so that helps. We also have another one who is less my favorite, but still also noteworthy. I forget her name, but she definitely is worth mentioning. Yeah, we also have the leader who is hockey-centric Rodimus Prime, and we also have the younger member of the group. No, I don't entirely remember all their names. Don't care. I still remember their characters, and their characters are pretty good. Yeah, as much as I want to give some of the other Disney Afternoon shows the spotlight, I'm sorry, I'm giving Mighty Ducks the spotlight. It's not perfect. It's not too noteworthy in the grand scheme of things, but I still 100% want to give it its dues for actually not being disappointing to watch. So, and also being pretty fun, personally. It deserves more love and deserves to be talked about a bit more. So yeah, Mighty Ducks.
Yep, those are great choices. And again, that's another show we're actually going to be talking about sometime in the distant future is Mighty Ducks. So be sure to look out for that.
Oh?
That's going to be a lot of fun. Matthew, what would your choice be?
Gee, I wonder, Gargoyles, what possible Disney Afternoon Gargoyles series the Gargoyles fan could want to talk about. Yeah, no shit, I'm going to talk about this one. This is my favorite Disney show, period. This was so good. It's something that Disney has not done since, and they need to. We need these dark, atmospheric shows. The writing staff for this was incredible. They understood the mythos and the idea of this world and just ran with it completely and made for such a great show. That's not to belittle the voice cast either, who brought it all to life. These were people in their primes that were just doing amazing work. You had Jonathan Frakes, number one, as the main villain, who was basically Tony Stark by way of Lex Luthor, and this is probably my favorite role he's ever been in. You had Diana Troy as another villainess in this, the secondary villainess, and again, this is probably my favorite role she's ever been in. Everyone in this was so good at what they did. The writing staff knew what they wanted to do. The animation crew knew what they wanted to do. The design crew just excelled. Everything about this was fantastic. We don't bring up season 3, that doesn't exist.
That bad, huh?
Season 3 feels more like Gargoyles fan fiction than Gargoyles itself. Again, not saying that it's bad, it just didn't feel right.
I can see why you think that, but yeah.
That definitely is a great choice, and believe me, I can understand why you picked that with how we've talked about the show as a whole. Probably if I saw the whole show as an entire thing, sit down, I'd binge through the first 2 seasons of that comics, I'd probably be on the same fence as you because, man, this show is so well made. This is above and beyond what happened. And the reason they actually did Gargoyles in the first place was because originally, if memory serves, they were going to be more comical. The Gargoyles are going to be more like Gremlins, but because Goof Troop got hit so hard with Batman the Animated Series, Disney told them to do that, and we're glad they did.
Yep.
Nice.
Amazing, amazing. So, Sharko, what your pick, Beat?
Mine is probably not one of the first many people will say is their favorite because, well, there's stuff like Gargoyles, as Matt has been pointing out. Mine is actually going to be the Timon and Pumbaa cartoon series of all things.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a really funny cartoon. Like, we're gonna do a Lion King spin-off for maybe even younger audiences, so we can make it as serious as the original. Let's make it more funny, more comedic, and it's like, oh, okay, let's not focus on Simba, let's focus on these two guys that... But yeah, it's like, it's a really great, funny series. Like, the episode has the duo doing, like, many crazy things, and the great thing is that they don't stick to the savannah all the time. There are episodes where they're in different environments. There are some episodes where they go to the city and all of that. So there is a lot of variety of jokes they have. There's a lot of stuff they get him to do. I especially remember a few episodes because I had a VHS that it was like a collection of many episodes where it has like a main plot where Pumbaa loses its memory. He gets amnesia, so Timon starts telling him stories, and there's like the episode where they find an egg and it bears an alligator, and they think it's a chicken at the end. At the end, they take him to a farm with a female alligator they found, and well, it doesn't end well for the chickens, let's just say it that way. It also has a funny segment where they sing the song Stand By Me, but a lot of stuff is happening to Pumbaa. He gets hit by lightning, he gets crushed by a stampede, by a train, while Timon is singing all happily in the foreground.
God, I love that music video. It's the closest we'll ever get to a very polished animated thing from the Timon and Pumbaa show, on par with the Lion King in general.
Right. Also, Matt, what do you want to say?
I've always found it funny that people accuse Timon and Pumbaa of just being a Ren and Stimpy knockoff. It is not. It had a lot more creativity and variety to it. Schnookums and Meat was the Ren and Stimpy ripoff.
It's very more unique. Like, just because there's two, it's a duo with comedy and slapstick does not mean it automatically copying the other two. And also, one last thing before I finish. The VHS also had the episode with the female squirrel. Those who know will know.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, if you haven't seen that episode, check it out because you haven't. But yeah, that is a great choice there. The Timon and Pumbaa show is always one I enjoyed because, again, it's kind of like the opposite of the Aladdin show in that they really just took it and were like, we know you're not here to see the Lion King continue. We know you're just here for wacky antics, and here you go. And I did like, they did have some continuity. Like, they had some of the shorts of the Rafiki and the hyenas that they kind of phased out as the show went along. Kind of a shame, but at the same time, really, really funny. I think probably the best moment of The Lion King that they actually called back to was the episode where, for some reason, Timon and Pumbaa are in ancient Rome. They're thrown to the lions, and the lions just had to be Simba, and they all just like, hey, how's it going? You know, like that. That got such a good laugh out of me. That was a fun show. Oh, God.
Last note, so there's an episode where Dragon Maleficent makes a cameo, but it's just a 3-second gag, so we can't cover it, sadly.
Maleficent shows up, but like you said, she only appears for a brief period. Kind of a shame. Those are all really, really good choices. And now it is time for the patent-pending Dragoness Scale, where we're going to rank Nessie, which is I believe I think we've done Nessie almost 10 times by now, and every time it's given us something a little bit different. Like I said, this is the most realistic version of Nessie that we've discovered, and as a whole, you think she wouldn't have a lot of character, and yet they actually managed to give her a lot of personality despite that. I know basically she can't talk, she's just a monster and she growls and that, but you do feel that she has some kind of character with her. The way she reacts to Angela and they bond is really sweet. Reacts to them attacking Angela as well as her. The fact that she would protect Angela is a great moment. Her and Big Daddy, and I still love that they gave male Nessie that name. Their relationship is really sweet as well. And even the ending where it's revealed they actually had hatchlings in that is such a sweet, understated moment. I cannot give her a 10 out of 10 because she really doesn't have like a personality in terms of speaking in that. But aside from that, I might give her an 8 because again, the appearance is just a realistic dinosaur and realism versus fantasy. This is a mixture of it that really does work in my opinion. So the design's great. What they did with the characterization and what little they could do was great. And yeah, as a whole, 8 out of 10 for me. Angron, what would you give her?
Yeah, I'm pretty much going to pull out one of Mathmachine's so-famous lines. Big monster! However, a big monster with, like you said, more character. She's definitely caring. She and Angela have a very, very strong kinship that I am 100% for. And yeah, the adorable moments definitely make some of the rougher moments where she gets tranked and hearing that she doesn't have long to live because of her confinement. Yeah, it makes them feel all the stronger for it. Just not strong enough for me to give her anything higher than a 7 out of 10. She's not bad, she's not offensive, but she does open the floodgates for better, more character-filled Nessies, as it were. Also, again, big monster!
Yeah, I can kind of see where you're coming from, but I do feel like they did just a little bit more than just make her big monster. If you want to see just like big monster, we'll talk more about next week, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Math, what would you give her?
It's a Gargoyles character design. 10 out of 10, don't change a thing, looks fantastic. Right there. The issue is that, as Angron so adequately put it, I'm a monster! You do see bits of personality poke through, rather than it just being pure dinosaur, particularly with Angela. And there is a bit of a bias here because she is cozying up with Angela and Angela's best girl, so that kind of wins you brownie points. Because of the bit of personality that shows through and the fantastic design, I'm going with Angron here out of 7.
And like you said, the character design as a whole is so great, and of course, the size helps. I really do like that shot, like you said, of where we see just how huge Nessie is and how small Angela is as a gargoyle compared to this giant hulking dinosaur, and yet they give her such a sweet disposition. I do like that. Anyway, Shark, what would you give her?
Well, rule of 3 because as the other 2, big monster and all of that. But hey, considering all the other Nessies we have covered are more in the cartoony side, as you mentioned, having one different that goes for more realism is a unique change in the Nessie slots and all of that. And yeah, there's a bit of character as well. It's not just acting out of pure instinct. There's the bonding she has with the characters. There's the whole caring thing with the other plesiosaurs she meets at the end of the episode. So I'm also gonna go with 777. We won the game. Let's go gambling.
So yeah, like I said, that's all really a pretty good score there. 8 out of 10, then a 7 out of 10 train. A lot of fun. I really had fun talking about Gargoyles, and this is not the last time we're going to talk about it. Far from it. And maybe in that time, I'll probably watch more of the show, so we'll know a bit more about it. But regardless, that'll be it for this week. If you have any questions, or if you want to tell us how you'd put Dr. Sevarius in Clue, feel free to email us at fierydiscourse@outlook.com. Visit us on Twitter at twitter.com/fierydiscourse. Visit us at Blue Sky at Blue Sky Fiery Discourse. Be sure to subscribe to the Fiery Discourse YouTube channel, like and hit the bell icon, leave a comment. Any comments are appreciated. Also, one of our co-hosts, Lucky Evie, is looking to move to a group home in the UK that will also be in the description. Any and all help for that is appreciated. Next week, we're going to go back in time even further because we're going to be talking about the 1987 The Real Ghostbusters episode, I Am the City, for our Halloween special.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hopefully we
One
don't
thing
get
you can say
slimed.
about us is, Bustin makes them feel good. Dragons make us feel good. And we'll talk more about that next week. Yep, but that'll be it for this week. And until then, thank you all for watching and take care.
Later.
So.
Bye
Adios.
bye.
See you all next week.